Hi, welcome to the review from the Vault. We are reviewing Shazam 2 Fury of the Gods. It's our first video review on YouTube that we've done, so something new for us, and we're giving it a go.
Yeah, most of the time we do these in other videos accidentally. We end up reviewing an entire thing while doing something else. So we figured we'd make it just more of a centered around this.
Yeah, so we're going to start with a sort of non-spoiler review, and then we will let you know when we get into the spoiler stuff. I liked it.
Yeah, it's good.
I think it's good.
It's fun.
It is fun.
Is it as fun as the first one? I'm not sure. I kind of want to say I enjoyed it more than the first one.
Yeah, so let's lay the groundwork. I like the first Shazam movies. Yeah. You know, I love DC Marvel superhero movies. And I liked this one. I thought it was good. It's difficult to compare, I think, despite them both being Shazam movies. Is it as good? The same level, maybe?
Yeah, I think what it is it's just a good sequel to what we have already received in the first one. It keeps the same sort of fun lightheartedness of it being kids now turned into adults with superpowers, but we get to see that a bit more because obviously his family are there as well.
It's like they're different. The first one is the origin. This one, you get to see more of their family dynamic, which I enjoyed. You know, I liked seeing it being the whole, you know, them in their lair, in their family, they're all together. The bridge scene, I thought that was actually pretty decent. You know,
a solid
for
opening.
sort of villain-wise, they're not as strong. Like I think Mark Strong's Dr. Savannah being an actual, being an actual Shazam villain, maybe from the comics might have been why he was a stronger villain.
Yeah, like I didn't mind, but the only thing is I didn't like their visual element a lot because I felt lack of because so much of it was brown. Yeah. And I think it's a real shame because they start being mishmash and easy to lose. Yeah. The only one.
Exactly. The sequel has the same problems that I had in the first one. You know, the problem with the first one is that they've got the 7 sins, and they're all just like brown monsters, brown CGI monsters. Whereas, you know, each sin kind of is given its own color. You know, the greed, the envy, the wrath, and you know, all that sort of stuff. And they were all slightly tinted, like yellow, green, red, or whatever. But they should have just been full on green, deeper red, colors, yellow, like monsters. And the same with this one. You know, like
it falls into the same problem.
It also then becomes a weird contrast because they do thankfully stay to the colors of the characters. Like the characters are colorful. Mm-hmm. You know, and then you put those colorful characters against brown
mottled
designs.
It works because the main characters technically are still popping out, but it's a shame because you've got the antagonists who you want to also visually be able to easily depict from the background, and they're fading.
I think it worked better if it's also the setting, I guess, because it's Philadelphia.
Yeah,
which
I don't think it helps that they did it all sort of. It seems like a lot of the film is set at a dusk sort of time, so a lot of the environments also kept in this low,
it's almost like this
sepia tone lighting, and which is a shame because you're like, I'm sure they can do more with it.
Yeah, I think it struggles because, as I said, it's set in Philadelphia, which, I mean, I always find it weird because, like, to me, Marvel is the like real locations. And DC
is the fictional.
Pretty much all their characters have their own fictional.
Metropolis, Gotham.
You know, you got Metropolis, Gotham, Star City, Central City. Bloodhaven's Nightwing. You know, like Kahndaq, the Black Adam one. You know, relevant. Black Adam's city of wherever in Egypt, I guess.
DC.
Well, I think Kahndaq's technically its own country, or used to be.
It's like a Mesopotamian type thing.
That's why he's kind of like an anti-hero, is because it's like a city-state. And anyway, we're not here to talk about Black Adam.
I haven't seen Black Adam,
it's weird that it's always weird to me when it's like it's a city that is real life. Mm-hmm. Whereas they should just be like, no, this is. I'm not clued up on what Shazam's city is, if he even has one in the comics, like the Flash and Green Arrow do.
Yeah,
and
as we said,
Greenland's like Coast
all the
City, I think.
heroes.
So yeah, exactly. They all have their place. It's weird to me when they're just filming Philadelphia, whereas like like the Batman, the better Batman movies.
Yeah,
have the better settings, or
it's the Christian Bale Batman problem.
Exactly.
Later.
Like how Batman Begins is like it's set up. It's got its monorail. It looks fantastical.
Kind of.
It looks. It's hitting the '90s animated series vibes of like, what year is this set in? A monorail from the 1930s, but they're using a microwave machine from the future. It's what the Batman. Rob Pattinson's one did good is that it's like the setting
they mix
is
the architecture and
good.
they have some interesting environmental sets,
exactly.
Which this one unfortunately doesn't, because as you say, it's just Philly.
And Metropolis can be whatever you want it to be, and it's like it feels like you sort of need that where you can just create a bit more interesting environments to juxtapose the colourful characters and then these more ground, because I mean Helen Mirren's character is supposed to be like earthy. Like I don't mind that like the dragon.
Yeah,
the dragon
wood. Appears to be made of wood, so that's cool. It's actually really good graphically. I think a lot of the animation doesn't fail in this as well, which is good. It's just you're not able to. Maybe the reason it doesn't fail is because they stuck with monotone colors. It tricks us into thinking it's.
I feel like we're about to push into spoiler
territory.
So. For to cap off the non-spoiler, I think good film. I enjoyed it.
Visually good. Story-wise, it's an average superhero film. I prefer it than a lot of some Marvel ones, but I think that's just because of Marvel tiredness. They're producing so much with TV series and films.
A lot of people talk about superhero fatigue in general,
and I think DC, although they're maybe not doing the right thing in their cinematic universe currently, maybe, who knows, at least I'm not getting tired of what they're producing.
Yeah, that's true. So, non-spoilers, it's good if you like the first one. I think you'll like this one.
Yeah,
I don't see there's any reason. It's a very good sort of stands on its own, works as part of a wider universe, but doesn't have to be movie, which I think is part of this whole struggle with superhero fatigue nowadays, when it's like, I need to know every last movie. You don't. As far as a sequel goes, probably better that you've seen the first one.
But I think you can also kind of step into it without seeing
you can
the first
step
one.
it not every movie has to be the best movie ever made or perfect. This isn't a perfect best movie ever made, but it's good fun, it's enjoyable, has laughs, we were entertained.
I was worried I was going to be disappointed by watching the trailers, and I went into it coming out enjoying it. So I think that's, it didn't let me down. It didn't boost my elevation of being like, oh my god, I'm so excited for what DC are doing, but I was like, I'm happy with this, it's good.
A fun movie I'll watch again at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And now...
let's step into the spoiler zone.
Spoiler-wise, as we were talking about, this is why, talking about the villains and the look and the everything that I didn't want to get to. So what I didn't want to spoil is that, they complete their mission, obviously, the evil women, daughters of Atlas. They get to the point where they are creating the creatures, these mythical creatures, magical creatures, sort of fitting the whole, they're Greek, Roman... adjacent gods and goddesses.
They each have
and
unique
Shazam's
powers.
whole thing is, wisdom of Solomon, strength of Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury. So that's what Shazam stands for. So they work in their unique villains made specifically for this movie, although obviously they are taken from ancient texts and ideas. So
Ancient texts.
Yeah,
I mean... they do a good job of separating out their powers. I thought it was kind of cool with Lucy Liu's powers. She's like the power of chaos, the opening scene where she sort of whispers in people's ear. Cool. I was like, that's like a fun, like,
I kind of wish they'd followed more on that, I guess.
Yeah, she doesn't really use it again.
Because at the beginning, she sort of creates almost this, like, whole zombie... it's
a zombie film.
Turns out her powers are powers of chaos. Which, makes sense at the beginning, but the rest of the film, she just sort of speaks to one person.
She just does chaos, but she doesn't really use any chaotic powers. Like, you could have furthered it with, like, she's able to grow and kill life simultaneously. Like maybe, like
I'll
an
say
elemental thing.
I'll
stuff
say this:
scraps
all
up
the
and dies.
villains'
I don't know,
powers I thought were interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a good
Hespera,
separation.
Helen Mirren, exactly. Helen Mirren's character, she has probably the most basic one. They say the power of elements, which basically means she can just, it's not so much elemental like Avatar, even though I'm sure it could be. When they say that, I'm expecting, okay, and at some point she's going to be fire, air, water. But it was more like she's controlling metal and the ground and bringing things. It was a bit of a loose interpretation maybe, but it worked. Yeah. But I liked Anthea, the other one, thing of like Axis, the Axis powers. Axis. But yeah, her Axis powers. Weird thing to call it, I think. Say it, but that was a cool thing. Like,
I think it's
the Inception style.
I think it's a very I think it's almost like a very classic retro term, almost like power of Axis, instead of like power of bending reality or whatever, something that you might say in Marvel films, because we get a similar scene, really. Instead, it's like the power of Axis. It's like a
what
very
Doctor Strange does, or like as I said, Inception. That sort of thing where it's like they're all moving around.
So that's fun. It comes in handy a lot. I think her character is actually. I like the villains' characters. Like their goal isn't really evil as such, really, when you think about it. Yeah, maybe what they're doing is a bit shit.
Lucy Liu was in
Lucy Liu's the evil one. I mean, she's the power of chaos. But at the same time, I kind of get it, Like, their father was killed, but the father was evil.
Father was a
but
titan.
At the same time, they're sort of like, look, we just want the seed so that way we can bring magic back to our realm and be separate from you humans. Obviously, Lucy Liu's like, actually, fuck that. I want to kill them. I want revenge. It's that order versus evil or chaos. And then the third one who's just like neutral. She wants...
it's that sort of interesting Shakespearean dynamic, the three witches or whatever, the power of the three, which, they say is originated from that level of, the Macbeth
it's very
witches.
Alchemical.
Where it's like, because, I mean, they're varied in age as well, so it's like you've got the oldest one, you got the sort of middling aged one, and then you've got the young one, even though they're all like 6,000 and whatever
years
else.
old. Yeah.
As I said, it would have been interesting to see more of like Lucy Liu Calypso's powers, because you get at the beginning and then you don't really get much more of it, and her character maybe is lacking throughout the film until she becomes the sort of villain. I wish there'd been maybe a bit more of a build up to that. But yeah, my point being where it's like when they finally sort of achieve their mission, or she does, and the ground that like creates the creatures, the mythological creatures, which was quite fun and nice. But
they have the life tree.
The designs weren't bad; they were cool. I liked them, but again, they all seemed quite muted in the same color. And even I think from afar, you'd be struggling to tell that there's like, because they're harpies, minotaurs, cyclopses, and
I mean unicorns, but
unicorns. Did I say unicorns? Manticores. That's
manticores.
it. The lion winged scorpion things.
There's some kind of violent deaths in this, but also kind of not. I do find it a bit weird, but I guess because it's meant to appeal to a younger audience.
Yeah, there's some real PG
definitely
violence.
Like PGing it.
Like from the beginning, when that guy gets thrown into the pillar, and it's like he's clearly just like broken his neck, like you just watched someone
smashed his head straight into
because
that
there's
marble
no
pillar
blood. It's like this is fine.
It's
for
fine.
children.
It's fine.
It's fine if a unicorn stabs a cyclops through the chest with its horn. They're not
the
real.
manticore fucking stabs that woman straight through the back, then throws her to one side. It is like, whoo. But because there's no blood or really any
stabbed by the dragon,
there's no like real impact given to them. It's just sort of like shit's just happening.
Exactly. Maybe kids' films need blood because that shit was just like
visceral.
You're teaching
visceral.
kids that like, hey, this just happened. It's fine.
It's Philly, man. It's fine. Yeah. America.
It's always sunny in Philadelphia.
But yeah, I also felt with the unicorns it was a missed opportunity when they get fed Skittles to like maybe
Taste the
change
rainbow
their
mother
color a bit. I don't know. Give them like, I imagined they'd eat the thing and then they'd fluctuate with colors through them,
they'd go
or
from
their
being
horn
black
would
to
glow
yeah,
or something. But it's just like, nah, they're still black steeds, and they're kind of cool. I loved it, but you know,
80s dark fantasy,
yeah,
type of like
It was good. Like I like them.
like legend style
Yeah.
looking fantasy creatures. But yeah, I wish the fantasy creatures maybe got a bit more screen time, a bit more to do. At that point,
It comes quite late in the film, though, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, it's the sort of get go of the like villain arc, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the big ending that they need to confront, and I think they struggle because like they're mixing it in with the fact that they have to take away Shazam family's powers.
Yeah.
The Shazamily. So they're doing it whilst humans, which is sort of why they get the need for unicorns, which is fun itself. But then it's also like you're almost missing a step by having them not be superpowered to be like having them fighting a Cyclops and a Minotaur and a.
I do admittedly think that is one minor problem within this film, because the rest of the family don't really use their power throughout it, because we see them in the beginning, and then it kind of feels like obviously they get their power taken away pretty quickly. It feels. Obviously, there's quite a bit of space between that point, but like, I don't know, you just never really get to see them use their power again.
Yeah. What I would say is I appreciate to me at least, it felt sort of organic and authentic in their use of being like, these gods are just going and trying to take their power back, so they're stealing it from them, and then when they can, they're sort of giving their power back to themselves. There wasn't a point where I was sort of questioning the motive or why they're doing it. Like, there was maybe one point just before the very end where I was like, okay, why doesn't Shazam just give Freddy and Anthea their powers back before he goes and fights Lucy Liu on his own? But other than that, I was like, yeah, it makes sense that they're taking the powers, and any chance they're getting otherwise, they're sort of being like, okay, now have your power back.
Yeah, quickly just take it back.
It became this sort of little thing, which
it's a game of tag.
I could see it being annoying to some people in the audiences, but to me, I'm like, it made sense. It was working out well enough.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just I wish we could have seen them using their powers more, as it did just as a lot of it's just them running and tagging. Like, I've got the thing. Run away. Well, no, I've lost the thing. I've lost my power.
Yeah, well,
that thing, and it's just a bit. I don't know. I want to.
Like I said, I wanted to see the super family fight these mythical creatures rather than just being like, hung out to dry and having to use unicorns. As like fun as that was, whilst it was fun, it was
It would have been more fun to also.
Exactly, it would have been fun to see them punching minotaurs and manticores and banshees or harpies, should I say? And
yeah. But, I thought the wizard wasn't too bad in it as well. It was nice seeing him and his interaction with Freddy. Freddy?
Yeah, Freddy.
It is Freddy.
No, Jeff.
He says it wrong so many times throughout the film. I genuinely questioned myself for a second, being like, shit, is it Freddy? I thought their sort of like interaction together as characters was really nice and fun, because it's that sort of like...
What I would say it was maybe slightly disappointing is it does seem a cop-out to have him back, considering he died. I would have preferred maybe you get a scene where it's like they've dragged him from the underworld or the afterlife, some sort of godly place they've gone in, captured him. I know.
I do think you're right there, because particularly with the end, once they're all turned into dust or whatever, it's like, well, why aren't they then just showing up in Olympus?
Exactly. They just did
later, because it's like, he came back from being turned into dust after whatever. They've now turned into dust. Surely they just reappear there. So it would have been handy to have some element of being like, they had to get him back somehow. I don't know.
But yeah, I feel like that could have just been a fun little intro to the villains as well. We get their beginning, which is, fine, but it would have been interesting to see maybe after that, because they need, like, they've got some power from the staff, but they need the full power, so they've taken the powers they do have to go and get the wizard from the afterlife and put him in prison and force him to say Shazam to fix the stuff. I think that was just a little something extra that they could have added to make it just a bit better and a bit more.
Seen Cerberus.
Exactly.
Cool. I was worried though for a second when we had the Wonder Woman scene. I was in a dream. Obviously, I didn't think it was a dream at first. I was like, oh yeah, maybe he's gone to Paris and he's trying to.
I was really hoping it was a dream.
But then when it was like, we're not seeing her face or hearing her voice, I was like, oh shit, have they really gotten rid of Gal Gadot already? And they've replaced him and they're afraid of putting her face and voice on screen. And
which, considering all the rumours are that she is no longer part of it, it was like,
yeah. But then, when it was like, it's a dream and it's his face, I was like, that's just a little bit of fun.
Yeah, and then the nice touch was that Gal Gadot does appear later in it. So
and
it's
like, oh,
she is, so when you dream of her, you can't, and it sort of works as a dream, where it's like, you can't quite see things really in a dream sometimes. Like, it's its own thing, tune. But it's enough. Yeah, it's really intense.
But anytime she turns up, it's just so intense for some of, she only turns up once in this film, but it's just so intense to have that theme tune.
I think they only needed anything. That beginning sting.
Yeah.
I think they just let it play on
too long.
For even though it's only on for seconds, it's like you need it on for maybe 1 or 2 seconds. You don't need the 3-5 seconds that it is on to be like, because it's like she's just walked on the screen. You have that sting of doo the whatever it is. She's arrived.
It's fine when it's in her own film because it's so she's doing something.
Yeah, well, but even then, they normally play it when she's about to go into action or do something.
Exactly.
Cool.
And this was just she's here to touch the staff and be like, yeah, I'm also a demigod, so I'm able to.
I'm not gonna lie. For a brief moment, I was like, oh shit, they've fully killed him off. Yeah. They know they're rebooting the whole franchise.
They can just get rid of him.
Series, they're just like, look, this just wraps it up. He's dead. Yeah. They don't have their powers.
Yeah, we don't have to think about Shazam for a while.
That was pretty, but they don't do that.
Yeah, because it was one of those things where it's like, they could. This isn't out for them. Maybe they were like, we don't think this film's going to do great.
Yeah.
We don't think people particularly like Shazam 1, even though it seems like everyone did, thankfully. We got this second one, and it's still good. Hopefully, we'll get a third one because I want to see what happens.
I'm open to a third one
with the caterpillar,
or at least even because again, post credits. They're linking him with the Justice Society, which is suggesting that he is going to stick around in James Gunn's DC universe, because one of the slated movies is Justice Society.
Nice.
And obviously we saw them in Black Adam. They were probably the best part of Black Adam. This is much better than Black Adam.
Dr. Fate.
But yeah, Pierce Brosnan's Dr. Fate is great. It
even in the trailer. I've only seen the trailers for it. Dr. Fate, Pierce Brosnan, seem great. He's just got that sort of...
For those who don't know, it's older than Justice League. It's sort of what came... I mean, it literally was before, in real life, they had the Justice Society back in the 40s and 50s or whenever, and then obviously later on... what
sort of justice they did back then.
Original Flash, Jay Garrick, and, original sort of Green Lantern, like Alan Scott and all that. Sort of, it was the old golden age... things. I'm sure Superman, Batman were there at some point, but then they carried on into modern society and the others faded away, and it became this transition of these older characters, golden age characters are the older thing, and now they've sort of made it so it's like Justice Society is Amanda Waller's Justice League, other than the Suicide Squad, which I guess kind of makes more sense.
Like more government supported.
It's one of those things where government-led superhero teams are generally viewed as
evil in a
lot
of media
because governments are bad. It's sort of like
I mean, it's what you got in Marvel Avengers sort of Civil War or whatever. It was essentially about the new one coming up with the Thunderbolts
and stuff.
Government organized justice superhero team versus being like, no, we should be able to govern ourselves because we're the ones with powers and superheroes and shit.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the point of the vigilante thing. Yeah. So it would be interesting. It seems like he has the potential. I mean, you have the two characters who, I can't remember their names, but they're in Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, which both good film and series. Peacemaker's the series. And yes, there's a chance for him to continue anyway. I'd be happy for that to happen.
Yeah.
The other post credits was a sort of hint at Mr. Mind and Dr. Savannah again, Mark Strong again, just to be like we
I
know
want
we
him back.
weren't in this movie, but we're still, and
We're
it'll be
still
fun. It'll be
here.
good. Like, that's what I'm saying. Perhaps they will be the villains of Justice Society. You could do it that way. They could, which I think would be an interest. That I wouldn't be opposed to that. That's a good
villain
sort of
team versus a hero team.
Like they did Starro, which I appreciated. It shows a willing to be a bit more bold and out there than necessary. And Mr. Mind would sort of follow along with that, but Savannah as like partner sort of provides that more grounded human villain as well.
It's what I think DC has sort of done better and is doing better than Marvel in the fact that they're willing to have these sort of fun, weird villains. Like, Marvel has a lot of aliens. Thanos is an alien, but like they're funny and entertaining and comic booky, and it's a big bold risk in my opinion.
That's the thing. Like,
good.
Comic book movies should be like the comics. Like, I hate studio interference when they're trying to make everything for everyone.
Yeah,
it's like sometimes they're not. I know you're trying to make as much money as possible, but that's when movies sort of fail a lot of the time.
Well, yeah, because I think the problem is where they get stuck in the middle of it, really, where they're like, they've gone already so far with it costume-wise, and then someone in the, production or whatever has gone, let's pull it back a bit, and all of a sudden you got this really wacky look to it, or almost wacky look to it, but yet they're still not doing comic book stuff.
It's like how the first X-Men, the suits they wore in that suck.
Fun leather costumes.
Because they're like... I think it was Brett Ratner or whoever was making them look, it doesn't make sense for them to wear blue spandex types. Let them wear black leather with and you see the behind the scenes and they were awful to wear. They couldn't do anything or move in them. They couldn't jump the walls and so it's like, it's awful. And they look shit. It's not even like they look better than their comic counterparts. It's like, no, put them... And this is the one thing we're missing from the X-Men. Well, and hopefully Marvel sorts that out. But this isn't it.
I like it a lot. I don't think there's really many complaints about it. I enjoyed Steve. Steve's a fun little character.
I thought that the jokes hit well enough in this.
Yeah.
The emotions hit well enough in this.
The family dynamic, as you said earlier, I think it's
got a nice family dynamic.
The whole element of being like, look, you're turning 18, you're fading out of the foster care system. I think it's very relatable and human, and because of that, it's sort of helpful, particularly adding then the further element being like, but he's also a superhero, so it's like, there's a lot of elements of trauma and stuff that as a character he has to deal with and is struggling. And
I know some people have complained him being too childish. I know that was a big complaint for the first film.
Yeah, I did.
I always interpreted it as, in the first film anyway, when he's a child, they were like, he's more of a child as an adult than he is when he's an actual child. It's like, my interpretation being, when he's a literal child, the Asher kid, whatever, when he's Billy Batson, he's a kid who's gone through foster homes and been orphaned and abandoned and struggling, and he's literally put out for himself, and he has to be more mature, and it isn't until he gets the big adult superhero that he can finally be a kid, and that's why he's a big dumb kid as a superhero adult than he is as a teen. And as an adult you see him like he's a superhero, he's trying to make money from people. I feel like they could have moved him more towards being, because he is 18 now, or almost 18, he seems a little bit more immature. It makes less sense. First movie I excused it. This one it's like you could maybe be a bit more mature.
That was my problem, because like you mentioned about the first one, I was fine with it in the first one, because it is like, if I was a kid and I got superpowers, I would be doing all kinds of funny shit just to entertain myself. You're basically Superman. Like, you got Superman-like powers. Who wouldn't have fun flying around and do
dumb
shit?
stuff all the time. So like,
but I did feel with this one, like him when he's pretending to be a kid, particularly because Freddy's like, he's like always worrying about me and all this stuff. It felt, I don't know, he was more mature when he was being a kid than when he was being a superhero, which I felt was
And it
fine
made
in the
less
first
sense
one,
this
but it
time.
felt like it made less sense this time because like he's so clearly also as a superhero being like, we need to work together as a team and take this seriously as superheroes. So to have that then also be like I'm fine with him not being able to pronounce shit. I get that. You know, people don't know how to say stuff. I've, you know, met people who can't say ramen. They say, you know, ramen. And you're like, okay, you know.
Exactly, it's a thing that happens.
It's a thing that happens, but like to at the same time sort of just be so like
just he was a bit goofy. Like,
felt
you know, like he
goofier.
goes to a pediatrician to, like, at the beginning of the film, he's going to a pediatrician, which he wouldn't, like, even
As an
at almost 18, like at 17,
so?
would you be going to a pediatrician?
I don't know.
Because
Maybe
he
in
says
America?
he's recommended by
Billy Batson.
So yeah, he's a bit goofy, and maybe, but it's a tough one because in the comics he's goofy because his whole thing is he is a kid. In the comics and TV shows, you can keep him a child
At
forever.
12, 15,
Where in
whatever.
real life, you can't keep recasting Billy Batson and pretending no time has passed.
Yeah.
You know, real time has passed. It's been 4 years, 3 years maybe, with all filming accounted for, I don't know, since the last one, which was 2019. You know, time has passed. As they said, they address it. They're like, he's almost 18. He's sort of worried that he's aging out of the foster system, which again, I think is very real, relatable, sort of, especially for obviously a lot of kids out there who are in that place.
I think what could have potentially helped in that whole thing was as he's trying to make the team stay cohesive as a team, if he made a point about it being like, how are we going to get into the Justice League if we're not, like, to have that element of being like, he's afraid of fading out of the foster care system, doesn't want to get a job because he's part superhero, and so in his mind he's like, well, if I get our family as a team into the Justice League, then great, like everything will be fine, it'll be fixed. And I think that's kind of what they're trying to go for, but because it's not really said or addressed out loud, it's sort of just a very loose concept that I'm saying, but
I do want to reiterate, I did actually really quite enjoy the family dynamic in this. I like the whole like Freddie Freeman, who's, you know, he's got a crutch.
He wants his own thing.
Him having his powers means he wants freedom to go out, and so the control is sort of rebelling against Billy. I like that. I like that Mary is like being realistic. She's like, I would have wanted to go to college, but I need to help support the family. I need, you know, he's saying like Wonder Woman doesn't have a job, and she's like, I'm not Wonder Woman. I need money to pay for all these sort of things.
I also think it's fun to be like,
stuff.
Wonder Woman doesn't have a job, but obviously as the audience, we're like, we know
she does. You know. Everyone has their alter ego, and then, you know, you've got Darla as the literal child, but even seeing, I think, is it Eugene the kid? I think it is. But he's sort of out mapping the doors and stuff, and he's like, they've all got their separate nerd
things,
and that was kind of a cool thing. Pedro, okay, they kind of just went, and he's the gay one. Not the best, but you know, it's better than nothing, I suppose. Like, you know, him and Darla probably, they just go, Darla's a child. He puts Skittles in people's pockets. They'll come in handy later. And the rest of them have a sort of thing, and then it's like, and Pedro's gay. He likes baseball now because so madly. But it's fine in the whole thing, you know.
I think it comes in hand with where they're taking powers away from them a lot of time. They're not wanting to focus a lot on those other characters. It's really about Billy Batson and Freddie in many ways, because it's
that's what
about,
I'm saying.
You know.
And like their parents are nice and fun. I like to see like a happy family, and it's like a big happy found chosen family, because it's a cut that. Yeah, exactly. So there are this isn't the perfect movie, but I don't have too many major complaints really.
Action wise, I have a minor problem. It's only really in one fight where he's at the Burger Shack place.
Yeah.
And the only problem I have is literally like he picks her up and throws her on the ground after they beat the shit out of her, and then she also picks him up and throws him on the ground in very much the same way. And I guess it's
and neither of them do the knee breaking back breaker Bane combo thing, which was the real upsetting part. But
it's just one of those things where I'm like, I don't know. I get it. It's Helen Mirren. It's not perfect.
Yeah, and she's an old woman. She couldn't really. It was impressive they got her to lift Zachary Levi up over it anyway. But yeah, anyway, we've waffled on more than we expected to.
Yeah, it was meant to be
We'll probably
short.
be getting this tightened down and hopefully we'll review more movies, and this will be more...
a little more frequent.
Yeah, a little more frequent. We're going to try and put out other and different content alongside our sort of gaming videos and product videos. And, hopefully provide you with more different
good content.
Yeah. And as always, please check out our shop, www.geekvault.co.uk. And follow us on our socials. You'll be able to find them in all the links and everything. And Shazam review, Shazam Fury of the Gods 2 was good. Recommend, check it out if you like the first one, if you like superhero movies. I think this, don't hate it. Don't be a hater.
9 Shazams out of 10.
Shazams out of 10 Black Adams, That's that's my rating. Captain Marvel. Let's call him Captain Marvel.
Yeah.